Today is like a special day, plus very sad day too, whereas no one expected it. There was a special broadcast today, Friday the 13th, which is weird. 7:30 p.m. KST. It is actually a very tragic day. But before that, I do want to cover some of the things that happened. So usually, what Goldriver does is he turns on a broadcast. This presentation is done like like a where you have like BlizzCon or something like that. So you cover like the big updates, and this one where we talked about this. Remember this? They gave us like the select pack, all this stuff, and then he talked about balancing, etc. Here was the problems that we had. Let me just write it a little quickly. So one, we had balance, like people were upset about balance changes, right? And two, people were upset about tripods. And then the third one was, Algasia in general. And the jokes on the eggplant side dish. In Korea, you eat a lot of rice, right? And then you have side dishes. And I don't like eggplant. And I'm pretty sure people don't like it too. So when you have a video game, sideways content is usually called eggplant side dish. So people were like, oh, this Algasia update. So Rowan, the PvP stuff, we called it eggplant side dish because it sucked. And Cuckoo Hell mode is also eggplant side dish because it's not vertical content. So let's go over most of them. So DPS meter, what's important for you guys is for the DPS meter he talked about. So his thoughts of a DPS meter is a straight up no, because he doesn't believe in the DPS meter, and his game feels that there's more downsides, there's more cons than pros. That's why he said that it doesn't work. But at the same time, that doesn't mean he's going to not work on the MVP system. So he already mentioned it twice, and then he's going to mention it again because someone in the US made DPS meter, and everyone's like talking about it. Everyone got super sensitive about it. So he just made a call, like I guess like an ultimatum, right? That's saying like there's not going to be something like a DPS meter for this game. And people are upset about balance changes. So balance changes, the issue is he did say the test server, like the test server's point was the release was. So the importance of the test server is to test, right? And when the test server came out, there was a lot of issues because we couldn't do anything, right? First, I didn't have the resources to test out many builds. Two, the tripods were really much of a hard problem to test out different builds as well. He has mentioned that, test server is something like a long-term project where most of the users can do a lot of things, a lot of fixes to make the balance changes better. So he went over that, and obviously he's going to keep working on the test server, etc., all that stuff. And then he was talking about like Corona stuff, like development time is like really hard. And now the big part that I was really interested in was people are upset about tripods. I was upset about tripods too, because if a balance changes happen, you have to redo your tripods. And what redoing tripods is, if you guys have seen my yesterday's stream, you spend peons every time, and if you want a level 4 tripod, the 7 peons plus the gold to buy the gear to transfer over, and you use the powder of wisdom to make it from 5% to 10%. And really hard to do every balance patch. And then he has said that what is like the optimal balance change period, because if he thinks monthly or 2 months is too short. If the balance patch goes around 3 to 4 months though, like every quarter, the tripod change is going to be very tough. Let's say in a balance patch, a certain tripod swaps over, and I need to switch my tripod. So for example, the Gunslinger's patch, what happened was you don't use this anymore, and there's 3 tripods that are level 5. It cost me like 30k gold to do this initially. He was going to put a system where if we happen to get a level 5 tripod of something, we can keep it like a library. That kind of makes sense. So that it might work like an engraving library. It might. But the thing is, this requires a lot of overhaul on the system. He planned it from January, but he couldn't get it ready in time. Does that make sense? Because the balance patch happened recently. So the tripod's very important because I know you guys are having problems with tripods. When you guys do tripods, these will cost you a lot of money. It's like 3,000, and then it'll be just 10% for level 4. Instead of multiple presets, I believe it was going to be like an archive. So if you get like one, imagine if it was this way. If you get a tripod at level 4 at this section, maybe you can switch it freely. That kind of stuff. And maybe it will have a pity meter, right? And it doesn't matter which system it is, but the important part is there was going to be a new system, but the new system could not make it before the balance patch. So he talked about it at this section of the video about tripods. There was a system, but balance patch came afterwards, before the system. So, you know, so it's going to be updated later, so don't worry too much about it, right? Don't worry too much about the thing. You know, it's going to change later, and like the balance patch is going to happen eventually, all these things. And then he talked about the new hair. Am I missing anything before we go to? Right, and the Shoeshire body change. Like, these are big changes. And he also talked about Theomine raid. Actually, he also talked about the Theomine raid, a Khan raid, and Aeromancer is coming out in time, as in it's coming out in schedule. Right? Now, at this point on, it did kind of feel sus, because in a Korean, when you use a Korean word, right? Sometimes you feel that instead of saying it's going to come out and then he talks about it and all that stuff, it felt like he was wrapping it up, right? The presentation feels like he was wrapping up things. And then he was talking about the conversation on the Elgacia story, that the story wraps up all the things that he did for the past 10 years. During this talk, he got kind of juicy here about, like, you know, talking about dreams, all these things. And as you guys may know, when you guys been talking about it on chat while I was going over the early point of the video. By the way, the early point of the video is finished. In general, the story, etc. The director is stepping down, right? And the reason why he stepped down is because he has health issues. And the health issue started from Loa on Winter. He had health issues from December 2021. And apparently he couldn't even practice rehearsals with her. And then apparently there was like ambulance on standby outside as well. I think his health condition was very bad since this point, and I don't think it's something like COVID. So he was supposed to rest, but he couldn't rest as much because he has so much things to do. And I think that, yeah, after surgery as well. Like, he said he got a surgery after the Sorcerer's release too. So he worked like overtime. He worked really hard, and he talked about, you know, how he's going to quit, how he's going to step down, and talked about a bunch of things. And then it ended into like a credit of like he made this trailer that, you know, it's basically his journey as a director. And I understand why majority of the Korean streamers are very upset, and they're all crying. They're ending the streams earlier. Is because people who have played in the beginning, like, he just grew with them, right? As in, you play the game, you enjoy the game, you interact with the director, you're on like the director's side, and the game has became like successful. It wrapped in Elgacia, and then the director said that this was his goal, right? And this was his goal, and then he wrapped it up properly. There will be like a new leadership on the next Loa on, which is on the summer, or Loa on summer probably, with the new leadership and stuff. So that concludes the actual thing. That concludes the actual presentation. All these things. Oh, talk about collabs. Yeah. So there is one collab that he wanted to do. Okay. So this is out of order actually. So he wanted to do a collaboration with one game. It's a popular IP, but he didn't really mention what it is. Maybe it's like Monster Hunter or something, or he said like an RPG. So it could be like WoW or Monster Hunter. It's not like it's not a Korean game, by the way. Okay, so that being said, also there's a concert on June 3rd, and I think he's going to sell the tickets around May 18th or something like that. So that's about it. So today was a huge day. I did not expect today. When you wake up, you ready for the broadcast. It's like, oh, I wonder what's he gonna say about the PS meter. Oh, I wonder what he's gonna say about the tripods. Oh, I wonder what is he gonna say about the balance patches, etc. All this stuff, right? And all of a sudden, he just goes, "I'm leaving." It's a big surprise. It was a big. I don't think anyone has expected this at all. All right, chat guys, say bye to YouTube. Bye guys. Bye YouTube.